Good morning for most of you, good afternoon for some of you. Welcome to this roundtable. I'm very happy that you have joined today. We're going to start this session. There might be some companies still arriving, but we're going to start. Looking at the time, it's 8:06 in Colombia in the morning. It's 3:06 in the Netherlands. We're going to start this very interesting session. I'm very happy to have you here. This event is organized by Invest International, Atradius, the Embassy of the Kingdom of the Netherlands in Colombia, NO in Business, and the Holland House, Colombia. And we're very pleased to do this session because I think we're actually one of the first bilateral chambers in the world to have this session about some new possibilities that exist. Short introduction. If we look at financing and we look at Dutch companies with activities in Colombia or companies from the kingdom with activities in Colombia, for many of them, financing has been traditionally an issue, a challenge, and that's because of different types of reasons. But one of them, of course, the local banks that might not be willing or might not be interested to finance their growth. So financing has always been a challenge for many Dutch companies with activities in Colombia. So it's always on our agenda. It's always an important topic to find alternatives, to present new ways, to present new organizations that could play a role there. So we're very happy today to have this session. This session is going to be structured in a very easy way. We're going to have two short presentations. And after that, I will invite all the attendees that are here today. Hopefully the time will allow me to give all of you the floor to present yourself, to tell us something about the needs you might have in the case of Colombia. Also, if you have any questions about what Invest International and Atradius presented, also that will be the moment to ask your questions or express your doubts. So that will basically be the structure. So first half hour presentations, please write down your questions. There's no need to use the chat because I'm going to give you the floor to all of you so that you can actually ask your question live. That's why we called it a round table, although maybe it's not as round as I would like to see. It's more like a dialogue where you ask your questions and present your cases and there will be answers, hopefully. So that's the structure. Without any further ado, I would like to give the floor. The two speakers that have joined today are Mark Cabret. Mark is Channel Manager and Strategic Advisor at Invest International. He's going to tell you a bit more about Invest International because it's a new organization that's bringing together instruments of RVO, FMO, known to many of you. So he's going to tell you much more about that. But we also have Mackenzie Masaki, business developer at Atradius. Atradius might be more known to many of you or to some of you. They're going to do two short presentations. Please, again, for now, turn off your cameras, microphones. There will be, after the two presentations, I will give you the floor to each one of you and to your questions and doubts. Mark, I'm going to give you the floor first, I think. Yes. We're going to share your presentation, and thank you again for joining us today.
Yes, well, thank you, Jan Willem, and thank you everyone for having us and getting the opportunity to present ourselves. Well, what we're going to tell you today is for the Invest International side, to explain to you who we are and for who we are and what kind of financial solutions we can provide. We won't get too technical, a bit more on a high level. Well, you have all the opportunities to ask your questions afterwards. I believe that you all will get these presentations after this meeting, so you can read it afterwards, and there'll be enough opportunities to contact us if you have any additional questions, even after this presentation. So I'll start with who we are, or just tell you what's my role. Well, my role is I'm the channel manager. What I do is that I do the relationships with our major strategic partners, so the Dutch banks, RVO, also with Atradius and other parties. So how can we cooperate best? Because as you know, we have a lot of these kind of institutions that, and I try to bring them a bit together, and that is really my challenge really. So I'll give you, please could I have the first slide, please, or the second one. Yes. Well, on this first slide, it gives us a bit of a picture of who we are. We are a very young company. We started in October last year. It is a merger between the international activities for private sector of RVO and the Dutch business activities of FMO. And our shareholders are the Dutch Ministry of Finance and FMO. I think you know both these organizations. And what we try to do is, of course, we want to help to improve the Dutch economy and the future earning capacity, like it says, but also the SDG goals. Those are also very important strategic goals for us. And on the slide, you also see how we are funded. So we are funded from the Ministry of Finance with the, there's the 833 million. But we also funded by the Ministry of Foreign Trade and Development. And we also got some other funds, but I won't go into much detail of that. But then you have a bit of an idea what our starting point is. So could I have the next slide, please? Now, what we do, we offer really tailor-made solutions, financial solutions, yes, for the private sector, but also for the public sector. So for the private sector, then we think about Dutch companies, and the public, that's for governmental institutions, and then it's especially in development countries. Well, I think we better go to this next slide. I think that's the best thing to do. And get back to the, yes. Yeah, why do we do it? Yes, to create an impact. So for the SDG goals, that's one of the major reasons why we are doing this. The other thing is, and especially that is for the SME, a major problem is that it is very difficult for SME companies to, could you go to the previous, yes, thank you. It's very difficult for SME companies to get financed by the Dutch private sector. And the reason for that are the Basel regulations, also the KYC regulations. So you see that the business case for SME finance is very much under pressure. So, and the other thing is you see is that the Dutch banks are retreating much more to their home markets, to the Netherlands and Europe. So they're not very much, don't have much presence in abroad. So this all makes it very, very difficult for these banks to be able to finance projects or investments for SME companies, also for export, of course. And we fill in that gap as good as possible. And well, and that's also our other, why do we do it is to improve the earning capacity of the Dutch economy. That's also the reasons why we are doing this. Could you go to the next slide, please? Yeah, and for who do we do it for? There are really a few primary segments, you could say. There are the startups and scale-up companies, and we have the SMEs and the large corporates, the governments, like I just talked about, and also financial institutions. So we also provide funding for banks abroad, and with those fundings, they can provide financial solutions for Dutch companies who are active in that country. So these are really the 3 or 4 target groups, of main target groups of Invest International. Would I have the next slide, please? So how do we do it? Yeah, we provide finance and financial solutions, but also product development. And so that if companies or governmental institutions need really structural finance, then there's also a period before this really can be financed, and that is really what we call project development. This is the period before real finance. And then the other thing is, yeah, there are a lot of institutions like us, like I said, RVO and Atradius, FMO, and it is also our goal is really to connect all these parties together so that we can provide more integral solutions, especially also for SME companies. Yes, would I have the next slide, please? So we zoom in on startup and SMEs companies. That's the main goal of this presentation. So we provide finance, and our expertise is really investment finance, but also export finance. But then especially for the more larger companies, and Mackenzie is going to be giving his presentation really for the SME market in particular. So our export finance expertise is more on the large corporate segment. All right, next one, please. So what can we do really, and what are the criteria? Of course, there has to be international activity. So we have also a lot of institutions like us, and you think about RVO, we talk about NL Invest, who really focus on the national Dutch market, but we focus on the international market. So when companies want to expand abroad, that is really our main, so we say, target group. We very much look at also the SDG goals, 8 and 13, that is the economy and employment, and the environment and the, well, so we say the energy transition. Those are really very important SDGs for us. Also the ESGs, and it is also focused primarily on the Dutch economy. Yeah, and what we need, and I think that is for every financial institution, there has to be always a healthy business plan, and there has to be a track record. Yeah, so we that's really important, and it's not more different than other financial institutions. And the other important thing is to know is that we, like I already said, we are additional to the market. So at the moment that your bank or another party can't do it, and there are a number of reasons why they can do it, then we come into place. And that doesn't mean that we do it alone, but often in close cooperation, with the private financial sector. But I'll get back to that later on. So we deliver a number of financial products. That is just a corporate lending. That is just export finance. But like I said, that is especially for the more larger corporate companies. And guarantees. Yeah, those are more guarantees that we provide to financial institutions, which gives them more security when they finance you or another company abroad. And we offer also equity investments. I will get back to that in a later phase. But the thing is also that our pricing and all those kind of things, they are market conform. So we don't want to be cheaper in the market or something like that. We don't want to disturb the regular private sector. So that's very also important to know. Then we may go to the second of the next slide, please. If I go too fast, then well, I'll hear that from you. So one of our important segments is, yes, and I see we also offer grants. I see one of the remarks. Especially for the startups and scale-ups, we offer grants. So there are really three goals of three things we finance really for the startups and scale-up companies. There's technical assistance, and generally we mean with technical assistance, we finance pilots. You say you want to go abroad, you're in the Netherlands, you want to go abroad, and you want to see what the opportunities are to be able to export or to be able to go invest in that foreign country. Then we offer technical assistance, and that is a grant, and that is about 15% of the total financial demand that you have. So that's one part. And then we do pre-financing, and that's especially for very small scale-up companies and for startup companies is the initial transaction. The first transaction is something very, very, very difficult. So you can see that's more the working capital. So that's got a tenor of 1 or 2 years, and then we can finance that up to 200,000 euros. Yes, and we require really 20% own contribution. There's always in every form of finance, there's always an own also contribution. And then we soft loans, and those are just the investment loans we provide for startups and scale-ups, and that will go up to 600,000 euros. And the tenors are usually about 5 to 7 years, but it also very much depends also what the finance, for what the goal is really of the finance. But also for over here, 20% own capital is required. So this is really the solutions we can provide for startups and scale-up companies. Could I have the next slide, please? Yes, and to see what we talk about, or when can we do it? This is just a bit of a high level, just to give you an idea of what we're looking at. It has to be a Dutch registered company, so that's very important to know. There has to be this Dutch substance. And what we talk when we talk about a startup company, then we talk a company that's not older than 5 years. And also, if there are other stakeholders, if that's more than 25%, then there also have to be not older than 5 years. Then we look at the company size. So it's not more than 50 FTE. That is all in the case of startups, yeah. And the revenues shouldn't be excess 10 million. Well, there has to be control in the local operating company. So it's not so that if the company is a joint venture, for instance, abroad, and most of the control is by a foreign company, then it is difficult for us to finance it. We want to be in control with the Dutch company. Yeah, and like I said in the beginning, a business plan is really, really essential. A good business plan, this is really the most important starting point. Yeah, so I can't repeat that more often. And there has to be impact. There has to be impact in local employment, in knowledge, and in production capacity. Yes? And I see another question. The presentation is going to be shared afterwards. Yes, that will be so. Could I have the next slide, please? Yeah, and then we're looking at the regular SME and mid-corp companies. Like I said, we provide guarantees, but then it means that we provide guarantees to the bank so that they can finance you in a more in a way that gives them more comfort. The most of our financing we do is usually in a co-financing structure. So that means that we do it together with your bank. So we do it in a 50-50 or in another way, but most of them we do in a co-financing structure. But if that's not possible, then we also we can also provide standalone financing, or mezzanine. We can also do it in other ways. Yes, so and we do financing in this regular SME mid-corp business from about 600K. Okay, if it's a bit smaller, then of course it is not very strict, but it's generally speaking from 600,000 euros. The purpose is just investment loans. So that is machinery and all those kind of things. We provide also working capital. If we talk about export finance, this is really the most larger tickets. It's not really small SMEs. And we do a bit of import financing. So those are really the main solutions we provide. Could I have the next slide, please? I hope I'm within the time. Yeah, generally speaking, yeah, the tenor and the grace period, that is also, it is not really a rule, but we also look at the situation. Sometimes the grace period can be a bit longer, or the tenors can be a bit longer, but we also look at the recovery period and the type of investment you do. A proven track record is very important for us. There has to be really Dutch substance, and this own contribution is also important. Maybe it's around 20 or 25%. It also depends on really your balance sheet, the structure really of your company. If you are a trading company, or there are large investments in other things, then this own contribution can be different. There must be some kind of Dutch control. So that's important that the company is situated also in the Netherlands. We use corporate guarantees. That means that we usually don't ask really fixed collateral like a bank does. So we use a lot with a corporate guarantee, because usually your bank has all the other fixed assets as a collateral. So corporate guarantee is the most important really guarantee we have. Now, I don't talk about ring fencing. It's not very important. And yeah, the front end fee and interest rate, yeah, those are really market conform. Mostly it is about 1%, or maybe a little bit more, and the interest fees are usually also market conform. Yes. Maybe go to the next slide. Yes, we also offer equity solutions. But we have a lot of them. One of them is that we work in close cooperation also with the ROMs. We have a funding, we call that the International Trade Facility. We do that together with them. That's really for the more smaller tickets, up to 5 million. And then we do also co-investment with private equity funds, or strategic co-investment with mid and large corps. And then we can go to higher amounts, to 15 or 25 million. And what we also do is we invest into private equity funds. And those funds are usually provide equity for smaller SMEs. We are not very much in the direct equity. We usually go to do that together with partners. And we take, of course, a stake in the company, and that is up to 25%. But that is also case by case, it's different. Yeah. Would I have the next slide, please? I hope I'm within the time. I'll go a little bit. Yes, and this is I think a very important sheet. Like I said in the beginning, there are a lot of institutions like us, like RVO, because RVO also provides loans that can be used for international finance, especially the BMKB, the Groei and Go, maybe you know them. And also the ROMs, like I said, Atradius. So we work very closely with them. And how are we going to bring these parties together is that we have a team, and that's an RVO team. We call that MKBF. Most of the questions and applications are sent to this team. And this team has an overview of really all the services these institutions provide. So that means that if we can't offer you a good solution, then this team will look at, can it be solved with an RVO product or a financial solution, or at the ROMs. So we really look further than just what Invest International can provide. And I think that's really the strong part of this cooperation. So in the last slide, this is the way of getting, maybe then you can show the next slide, please. Yeah, this is the way, how can you contact us? So if you use this email address or this telephone number, you get in contact with this team. So this team will really look at what we can provide as Invest International, but they know also very well what Atradius can provide, ROMs, and all these other strategic partners we have. So that's why we hope that we can, if there's a good plan, that we will find a solution. And on the Invest International slide, you will find also a quick scan form, and you can fill it out, and this will also get to the team, and they will get back to you within 3 days and see if there's an option or a solution. They will contact you afterwards, and they will find out if they can help you. And if there is a solution and that we can help you, then they will give this application to one of our investment managers, and they will get in contact with you. But the most important thing is for you, I think, if there is a solution for the thing you need, and with this quick scan form, we can make a very quick assessment what we can do, but also what the other parties can do. Well, this is the end really of my part of the presentation. It's a bit high level, but I hope I am clear, and I'll look at your questions afterwards. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Mark, for your presentation. Again, we will give everybody the floor to ask questions. So I see, for example, a question of Philips. I will give you the floor in a bit, Nicolas, so that you can ask your question also live. But first, to give a kickoff with both presentations, we're going to continue with Mackenzie Masaki of Atradius. He is a business developer within the SME and business development team of Atradius, and he is going to tell us a bit more about the export finance part they cover. Mackenzie, thank you for joining too. The floor is yours. Again, for everybody, please write down your questions. We will have the opportunity to actually get into more detail.
Thank you, Jan Willem, for having me. And I think Mark, the introduction he gave, rather the presentation he gave, is a good begin, so to speak, for the presentation I'm going to give. Please go to the next slide. I think it's important to speak about the history of our organization, because Unlike Invest International, we have over 90 years of experience with export credit. And we started off as NCM. I mean, for people who've been in the industry for a while, they will remember what NCM is. And eventually, in one of our sister companies, actually the company that is a significant majority shareholder is called CYC from Spain. They started in 1929. Eventually, I think the thing to earmark here is that in 1932 we had our first agreement with the Dutch government to work together to provide export credit services to Dutch companies on behalf of the Dutch state. And this relationship changed slightly in 2010, where the state, which is the Dutch government, became the carrier of the risk. And that is significant because then we were actually allowed to, as a service provider, provide services to even more riskier, slightly more riskier investments. I'll also come back to the relationship we have with the Dutch government a bit later. Next slide, please. So where we are now as a group, so Atradius Dutch state business, which I will explain who we are after this, is part of the Atradius group, which has over 3,700 employees globally. We have 160 offices across the world in 54 different countries and a turnover around 2 billion. And the headquarters is here in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam. Atradius Dutch state business itself, as the name suggests, is a service provider to the Dutch state. What we provide is export credit insurance. So what Mark actually also mentioned is that there is a significant requirement for Dutch content. And in our case, we've defined that as it has to be more than 20%, or 20% of Dutch content. This can be either in the form of shareholding, or it can also, for a transaction, be in the form of income or even profits that are going to be generated or accrued to a Dutch entity. So that has to be a minimum of 20%. Important to note, which was also mentioned by Mark, is that it's additional to the market. So as a business, we are not allowed to engage in transactions that would otherwise be serviced by commercial service providers in the market. So it has to be additional. That's the reason why we're saying it has to be a non-marketable risk. And we've defined this very clearly, but I'll explain that in the following slide. What we provide, as it says there, is credit insurance. And we also have some guarantees that we're providing and other financial instruments, which I'll explain later. We are covering medium and long-term credit periods. So what that means is that if you're having an export of a product that, let's say, for instance, coffee or coffee beans, the credit period there would not be 3 or 4 years. If you export coffee beans or coffee, the credit period allowed there for your purchase or buy would probably be maybe 60, 30, 90 days. And that's what the Atradius commercial group does, amongst other companies. The risks that we insure are usually medium to long term, so more than 12 months of a credit period, or a risk horizon that is longer than 24 months. Next slide, please. So specifically for Colombia, so the whole world has been divided into 3 risk categories. So category A are countries which are usually in the Western world, like maybe in North America, large part of Europe, where the threshold for us to provide our services, so the threshold for what is a non-marketable risk is higher. So in the case for Colombia, it is categorized under category C, where for us to engage or provide our services, the total risk period, so this is the period where you get into contract, you provide, you build whatever it is that you're building, be it a machine or a ship or capital good, and then you also extend credit to your purchaser for them to pay you back. That period, that's a total risk period, is longer than 24 months. or the credit period. So the credit period is a period of time where you've delivered the goods to your buyer, and the buyer, in this case, be they in Colombia, the Colombian buyer, has to pay back that period of time that they get to pay back for the good or the equipment that you've provided them. That is longer than 12 months. So we see periods usually of 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 years, and a maximum liability of more than 5 million. So for us to, for your transaction to qualify for our services, you have to fulfill one of these three, not all of the three. It's very important to mention. So assuming your total risk period, let's say, is less than 24 months, but then your maximum liability is more than 5 million, you still qualify for our services. Maybe the credit period is less than 12 months, but maybe the maximum liability is higher, then you still qualify. So you only have to fulfill one of these three criteria for you to qualify for a transaction, to qualify for us to provide cover in Colombia. Next slide, please. So I thought it was good to maybe show some of the transactions that we've done over the last 10 years, specifically for Colombia. Yeah, as you see, it's not so much. I think in the last 10 years we've had 26 or so transactions, and yeah, in certain years there's one transaction or no transaction at all. For instance, in 2013 or 2014, there was no transaction. Interestingly enough, when COVID started in 2019, maybe people appreciated more the need to cover your risks, because you cannot plan for everything, for every eventuality. So we saw from 2019, there's an increase in the number of transactions, and also the value per transaction has also gone up as well. This year, we already have, as of June of this year, we already have 4 transactions that we provided cover for, and the value for these transactions is over 80 million. Interestingly as well is the split in terms of sectors. So as a traders that state business, we are only mandated to cover transactions of capital goods or services, right? So the sector split is also very broad. You'll notice that a significant part of what we've covered over the last 10 years is medical equipment, for instance, and water-related transactions. But we also have transactions that we've provided cover for in the agriculture sector, shipping, building and civil engineering, foods and beverages, maybe handling equipment for port facilities as well. So I thought it'd be good to just show you this. Next slide, please. So because we work with the Dutch government, it's important for us, for you to understand that we are bound by certain rules and regulations. So when we are looking at a transaction, we have to basically cover 3 different, we have to evaluate 3 different parts of the transaction. So the first part is the financial underwriting, where we look at your balance sheet as a buyer in Colombia. In certain cases, we would also look at the balance sheet of the exporter, the Dutch exporter in this case. And then, based on certain criteria I won't go into, we can then evaluate the suitability, or whether the risk is a good risk to take, yes or no. The other thing, which is very important as well, is the ESG, or also economic and social and governance underwriting. So in certain cases, we have situations where if it's a fossil fuel related transaction, for instance, we as a traders are not allowed to provide cover as from January of 2023, because the Dutch government has said we no longer want to support fossil fuel related transactions. So it's extremely important. So you can have a very good balance sheet and the transaction is good, but then if you fail, or if your ESG scores are bad, then we would not provide cover for that transaction. So that's how important ESG scores are. Then the last thing is about compliance and writing. I won't check into that, but it's also important for us to understand the risk associated with the buyer. In this case, it is more of a reputational risk. because the risk taker is the Dutch government. It would be, if you have a bad headline which says, the Dutch government has provided financial support to a transaction that is going to encourage child labor and all these things. So the reputational risk or the compliance underwriting risk in this case is also very, very important. Next slide, please. So why our services? Why is it important to know about us? First and foremost, for exporters, you're dealing with long-term payment risks and liquidity caps. So for the exporter, you get opportunities for pre-financing for your transaction, and you have a better competitive position should you be in a bidding in a process where you're bidding for a transaction. For the customers, in this case, the companies in Colombia, for instance, you get the benefit of a longer repayment term because the risk is being covered by is a AAA rated risk because it's the Dutch government that's providing cover for this transaction. And then you also have lower interest rates costs because if it's a Dutch bank or another bank that is financing this transaction, if the Dutch state provides cover, then they're willing to lower their interest rates because their money is secure in this case. And then for the financing bank, we work with very many banks across the world. And if be it a Colombian bank, of course, we'd have to have certain checks done. But we also have, you also as a financier, you also have a lower capital requirement and lower financing costs associated with that transaction. So this is why these are advantages, so to speak, of working with Dutch state business. Actually, next slide, please. I'm seeing the questions coming, so I'll look at the questions once I'm done. Just a brief about the different types of products that we have. There's products related to the payment risks associated with your capital goods and/or services insurance. There's risk associated, there's products that we tied to contractors. We also have project financing facilities, but that I won't address that now, because we want to target the SMEs. And then also for banking and financial institutions, we also have products for financing. We also have some liquidity products for your working capital, and we also provide guarantees in this case. And to give a specific example, for instance, if Invest International as a financier provides a guarantee for a transaction, we can provide a counter guarantee, which allows the exporter to also, to work with. It doesn't necessarily have a cap on your liquidity because of the counter guarantee that we provide. And then we also have other products related to investment insurance, exchange risks associated with currencies, and DGGF and the DTIF. That's important to mention because there's around 68 countries in the world where should the, so to speak, the allocation that we have for export credit be full, we can provide a bit more, we can provide cover under DGGF and DTIF. Under DGGF, there has to be some impact associated with that particular transaction for us to provide cover. And for DTIF, DTIF, Dutch Trade and Investment Fund, that is for all the other countries that are not the 68 countries that we provide cover for under DGGF. Next slide, please. So what types of risks do we cover? There's political risks and commercial risks. So as examples, insolvency of your buyer, the data in this case, transfer problems. So should they not be able, for instance, to get money from the central bank to pay for their, to make their payments for your product, we can cover those transfer problems. Force majeure, and maybe government intervention. In this case, a government intervention would be, for instance, the government says, as an example, government Colombia says we are no longer providing any euros or dollars to any commercial company. And then then you have to find a way to honor your financial commitment, so to speak. So we provide risk, we provide cover for such eventualities. Next slide, please. Oh yeah, sorry, this is the last slide. My contacts are available, and you're welcome to reach out to me. The slide deck will be shared, so you will all have my contact information. Jan Willem, I don't know how you want to do this. Do you want to start with the questions that were raised for?
I think, Mackenzie, thank you for your presentation. I think very insightful. There's a lot of people I want to give the floor, and I'm also giving the floor to one of the persons asking questions, which is our honorary consul in Medellin, Quincy Lissauer. But maybe you can already answer his first question. You already told a little bit, if you look at the number of transactions per year, then there's, in the COVID period, there's more transactions, and you already explained that's because there's more companies that might want to cover their risks well. But in the years before, why is there the differences per year? Do you have any kind of explanation for that?
Yeah, that's difficult to explain, because again, we are very dependent on being responsive to what the market doesn't want to cover. So it's very difficult to get out a trend that says, okay, so this explains why there was no transaction, for instance, in 2013 or 2014 or 2016. So it's difficult to say why there was no transaction. Maybe there was just no need for our services. So I unfortunately cannot give a cause for the swings. The only explanation I can give is for 2019, 2020, and 2021, despite COVID, we did see the number of transactions increase, but also the value per transaction has also gone up. And that can also be explained in terms of, for instance, if the port, the port operator in Colombia, is a big client. So if they make a capital investment, it's immediately the value of the contract goes very, it's significant. But in certain cases, it could be a smaller transaction. So I actually should also say, for the kind of products that we have, there's no ceiling. So you can have a transaction worth millions, billions. We would still be able to look at that particular transaction. The flow or the smallest amount that we can look at as a transaction is from 100,000 euros. So that's where you started, and then there's no ceiling to where the value of the transaction that we can provide cover for.
Thank you, Mackenzie. There will be more questions for you, and we will come back to you in a moment. Thanks again for the presentation. At this point, I'm going to invite the participants. Like you might have seen, we have around 20 participants, so not a big group. You have been well selected because we know you all are interested to get to know more about Invest International, about Tradius. So I'm going to give many of you the floor. Just present yourself, tell us what you do in Colombia, what might be your questions or needs. I'm going to start with some of the persons that I know have been active in the chat. So let's start with Job Blom of Cleantech Hub. He is here together with Gideon, one of his partners in Colombia. Job, the floor is yours, and you decide if you also present Gideon, and tell us a little bit more about what you do here.
Yes, thank you so much, Jan Willem. So my name is Job Blom. I'm a sustainable social entrepreneur for over 20 years internationally. Always been active to empower sustainable entrepreneurship beyond borders. Actually, I know also Mackenzie from way back in one of our adventures to Regreen Africa with Just Dig It. Also, I lived in Colombia from 2016 till 2020. There we started in 2019 a green business ID competition, Climate Launchpad, to actually help startups, green startups, to fix climate change and to help them to bring their ID into a business pitch. And in 2 years' time, that evolved into a Cleantech Hub, in which we really drive climate entrepreneurship and cleantech innovation ecosystems in Colombia. We also started in Mexico last year, and we really offer like a full scale of entrepreneurship business support programs, incubation, acceleration, internationalization to climate entrepreneurs, really helping them through the whole cycle to go from startup to scale up and to jointly see if we can fix climate change. So we started with 14 companies in 2019, and last year we supported over 350 climate entrepreneurs in Colombia. And we've been completely bootstrapped, all financing and operating it from ourselves. And we are also constantly exploring cooperation with RVO, with Invest International, with the embassy, because we are really like tackling climate change, SDG 13, as you say. And for one reason or another, we are not able to get kind of financing support from RVO, from Invest International, because we're always a bit like difficult to handle, because we're also front runners, we are innovators, we are creators, you know, we start things from nothing. So I'm actually particularly interested, and then maybe Gideon will have another question, but I'm particularly interested actually in the technical assistance and pilots development, Mark, that you explained. Can you maybe explain a little bit more about that? Because I had a meeting also with Invest International, I think 2 months ago, then actually they didn't mention that technical assistant part, but for us technical assistants in this stage would be just so great, because we are developing, we set up all these programs, we are slowly and gradually growing with all kinds of local support of local companies, local funds, and international actors like the UNDP, like GIZ, with like Irish Aid supporting our programs. But we really also want the Dutch government to step in, also because it's the Dutch ambition of the new government to become this climate leader and climate innovator. So really looking forward to see how we can find a way to work together also in concept development and in project development. And also because at the end we want to set up our own fund to invest in this climate entrepreneurs that follow the complete cycle of our process. Maybe it's a bit too long introduction, but that is my question. And of course, we can have a separate cafe.
Yes, of course. Well,
but I'm particularly interested in technical assistance.
Technical assistance, yes. I don't know with whom you've spoken to previously. Somebody from our startup segment. I don't know, because if there is somebody out that team, then you should have mentioned really the technical assistance. But you could imagine that this technical assistance, especially when you want to go to a new market with a product that's really a proof of concept, already has a proof of concept, but you want to have some kind of a pilot on a new market, and you need the finance for that. So it's not really for the pure development, but you want to see if this product could also be used really on a foreign or new market. And that's where this grant, that's what it is for. So I don't know exactly what these plans are, but if it is, I presume that there's a proof of concept, it is a proven product or innovation, and but you want to try it on a new market. That's where really this technical assistance is for.
Yeah, that's actually our Climate Launchpad competition, you know, like it's a proven competition. It's active in 50 countries worldwide, and we actually want to roll it out in Panama, in Costa Rica, in Central America. And if we can roll out this product, and if we can establish like partnerships there and local infrastructure there, following that Climate Launchpad, we can set up a local organization, set up an accelerator program, and set up like access to capital. So really like the Climate Launchpad is our entry point to access and develop new markets. And we tried also with DHI, but then it was too complicated for them to understand. It was, not really like a technology, but it was more like an innovative approach towards technologies. So in that sense, that would be, and it's like an incubation program.
Yes, what I would suggest also for time's sake, and also for maybe the others have also questions, is maybe you could, in my presentation, you have my email address, to maybe shortly, maybe also say with whom you already talked with. That's one thing, to maybe in a few lines explain to me really what you're looking for. And then I can check with my colleagues of the startup scale-up department if they have a solution for the thing you need. I think that's the best way to do it, and then I get some more inside information also.
Perfect.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Job. Indeed, let's.
Thank you, Job. Yep.
Nothing.
Let's continue with one of the corporates that has joined, Philips. They have also been active in the chat. I've seen Fernando Javier. I've seen Nicolas. So maybe also one of the persons of Philips. May I invite you to present yourself? I know we already know you are you have used the instruments of Tradius. So Philips, please go ahead.
Hello, this is Fernando Sanchez. I'm responsible in Philips for what is called Philips Capital. So we have a really tight connection with Tradius and in the Netherlands also with all the institutions that help us to sell more. So we really count with us with you guys to develop our business in LATAM. So we have been really close, and you had been in the last I would say 3 years really active in the region, helping us across the whole region from Argentina till Mexico. So I really thanks for that. So as you know, so we are in the healthcare environment. So we provide healthcare solutions, equipment to our customers to increase their capabilities to provide the healthcare to the patients. So yeah, what I really wanted to know when you say about the partnership with local banks, because many times when we are right now working is in the hard currency environment. So if there is any possibility to get local financing in some way through the range of partners that you are mentioning you have, this is one of the things. And the other thing that I wanted to know if there is any possibility to get or fix the rates because you know that right now the interest rates are going up more and more and more, and yeah, our equipments many times are not to be delivered in a moment, so it takes sometimes 3 months, 4 months. To be delivered, and yeah, many times the customers do not want to enter in this type of volatile risk. So yeah, those are the 2 questions that I have.
Yes, and that's a question you asking me, I presume, Fernando?
Yeah, both of you. Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe I can start with your question if we have any collaboration with Colombian banks. We have none at the moment, but I can imagine that if there is a Dutch company who wants to do something, have activities there, then of course we can set up guarantee schemes with them, but that's not what you're looking for. But you're looking for foreign, this Colombian clients of yours to be able to get finance for the products they buy from you. But we don't have a direct collaboration with Colombian banks, so I'm afraid I cannot help you with that one. So that's my part really of the question, but maybe Mackenzie, you would have another idea about that.
Yeah, I mean, we do work with Philips indeed quite a lot, Fernando. This is true. I think we also have, we have a dedicated key account manager for Philips. So that's we've been very happy with the collaboration that we have with you, and we're happy that we can provide the service that we provide to Philips. So thank you for that. With regards to your 2 questions, I think obviously if it's a transaction that is being supported by a local bank, so let's say for instance your buyer is a Colombian or buyer from Latin America that has a local bank willing to finance the transaction, then we could look at the opportunity for us to work with that bank. I think that's something I think we've actually also maybe even done with Philips before, but I'm not too sure from the top of my head. About the hard currency issue, I think the one product that we have that could be of interest is indeed the risk, the cover that we provide for exchange related, FX related risks. However, I would really, obviously, it's dependent on the transaction itself.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. There was a question for me that why we prefer or like more to work with Atradius than traditional banks. For the customers, what I can say is for the customers, when we provide a credit through Atradius, they see many times the credit as a credit from a provider, not from a bank. So they can show also to the banks or to the local banks that Philips as a provider is willing to support them in their business. So for them, it's really more attractive to provide this type of transactions, and this is really, really helpful for us and for the customers. This is what I can say. And also many times is the way that Atradius see the transactions, the partnership that we have with Atradius is making it sometimes easier or attractive to get the lines directly.
Thank you, Fernando.
Sorry, Willem, maybe I can add on to that, because I think we as a traders, we don't work exclusively with only Dutch banks. I think it's important to mention that we work with various banks across the European Union. We work with various banks across Latin America. That's very important to mention.
Thank you, and also to the team of Philips that have joined. I'm sure you will be in contact with Invest International and with Atradius.
Maybe it's just good, Jan Willem, that we have these questions so that we can always look at them again. I mean, when I was talking about what Fernando was telling us, that we just can have a look at those questions again. So in some way, if we can have these questions still, then we can keep them some way that we can look at them again. Yeah.
We will also share you the recording, also to you, Mark, and to Mackenzie. But also, I think today is a starting point. So I know it's not really in depth yet. So hopefully you can keep discussing also. There's already some persons that had to leave because I know time is always a constraint. But there's still some persons I would like to give the floor. Paul Ravenstein of Witteveen Bos, and you might also want to talk a little bit about Royal Ports, because I've seen there are several persons also involved in Royal Ports. Can I give you the floor, Paul?
Yes, thank you, Jan Willem. Good morning, everybody. My name is Paul Ravenstein. I'm the managing director of Witteveen Bos, Panama. Witteveen Bos is a large Dutch hydraulic engineering and ports consultant. I'm responsible for the business in Latin America. Also in this meeting are representatives of Royal Port, Natasha Rodriguez and Santander Gomez. Royal Port is a port development in the mouth of the River Magdalena in Barranquilla. They have an environmental license in place, and we did all the preparation so far. And now to get the final concession, we need to finish the design, and then it needs to be constructed. So there are 3 Dutch companies involved: us, Witteveen Bos, the dredging company Boskalis, and the heavy lift and transport company Mammoet. And we would like to discuss if there are financing possibilities. So of course, my question will be if we can have a separate appointment with Mark Cabret and with Mackenzie afterwards. But my main question is, what are the conditions for financing of the whole project, or of phases of the project? For example, the first step that has to be taken is finalize the detailed design to get the final concession. This will be done by us. We have our headquarters in Deventer in the Netherlands. And as I said, I am in Panama. So this question is to Mark Cabret.
Yes, and you're still in, so you say, in the development phase with not only with a couple of Dutch companies, as I believe, like you told me. Yes.
Yes.
And could you just tell me exactly in what is the goal again? It is development of a port, or?
Yeah, the goal is there is a preliminary concession for the port.
Yeah.
But the precondition to get the final concession is to finish the detailed design.
Okay.
And we are, and afterwards the port needs to be constructed, and that will be done by Boskalis. But we as Witte Bos, we will be we will make the final design of the port to get the final concession, and the environmental license of the port is already in place.
Okay.
Based on our and others' input, of course.
Yeah, well, I think it's a good question, but we are, like I told, we also have a department that is with development of these kind of projects. That's their expertise. So I think the best thing is that we in some way get in contact with you after this meeting, and then I can also get the right people around the table to see what we can do in this, and maybe it is also possible to give you some background information about this, so that I can see what possibilities we have. Not only we, but maybe also other parties with maybe can be of help. So I think that's the best way to proceed. So if you can give me a little bit more background information, and then I can get, we arrange a meeting afterwards.
Yeah, that's fine. And I have the same question.
Can I just
to Mackenzie, of course.
Yeah, and also Mackenzie. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry, Mackenzie. Not only us, but also you. Yeah.
Yeah.
The concession you're getting is to build, own, and operate for a few years.
Yes, it will be a concession for 30 years.
For 30 years. So that's a typical project finance project for us. So that's something I can get you in touch with the project finance team. And if you have a financing bank, then the financing bank is the entity that will have to come talk to us. Because once they agree to do the financing for the project, so typically our products, we are based on the strength of a company's balance sheet. So you're looking backwards at least 3 or 5 years. But for project finance, the stream of income is expected income. So they would have to look at other sets of so to speak, parameters. So that, you know, I would say once you get a financing bank, and actually now is a good time to start that conversation. You can, you know, with the consortium of companies that are involved, we can have a conversation with the project finance team. That's for sure.
Okay, thank you. So I suppose that after the meeting, I wrote down your email address, Mackenzie. Thanks, and I suppose Jan Willem can send me the email address of Mark Cabaret. Do we make separate appointments with you both, or is it one appointment?
Yeah, then we will have to see how we're going to do that, Mackenzie. What's the best way to proceed? So let's talk afterwards then how we can do that at best.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That's my question. Yeah. I have many more questions, but I will keep it short.
Okay. Thank you,
Jan Willem knows me.
for joining. Indeed, I will share the email address of Mark as well. But
Jan Willem, sorry to interrupt, Jan Willem. I saw one question from Francisco from Sync Global Tech. If you allow me just 1 minute to quickly answer.
Maybe we can ask Francisco to present himself in 1 minute, and then let's see if the answer still stays the same. Francisco, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you very much. Hi, everybody. Well, I'm Francisco Valderrama from Sync Global Technology. Is from Rotterdam. We are developing team of security of the logistic chain. So we was create one platform and some smart devices that can alert when somebody try to open the container doors when being transported. So just now we signed 4 agreements in 4 countries, and our focus also is Colombia. And yeah, because the post-pandemic was very hard time for us, we are looking for the resources because our product just now was launched. So that's why my question, if exists any financial tools to finance our requirement from the current clients. Thank you.
Yeah, because I couldn't hear you very well, as you only heard part of it because it was a bit soft. I'm sorry.
Well, in summary, Mark, we are a startup that work in create the security of the logistic chain. Yes. So we want to create one a system to alert when somebody try to open the containers doors during the route. And already we signed 4 agreements in 4 countries. And we are looking some financial support, resources, or tools to accomplish with these agreements. So that's why my question about if there are some instruments, some tools to help startups like my startup in early stage.
Yes. Are you also a Dutch-based company?
Yeah, we are located in Rotterdam.
All right. So the thing is,
Mark, yes? Now we heard well, Francisco, but now you're a little bit farther away, it seems.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, that's better.
Yeah.
Better. Okay, good. And what I believe what you're telling you want to expand really your business, and you're looking for finance, and you are a startup company, and you are based in the Netherlands.
Yep.
Yeah. So okay, and you've already done transactions before. Is this your first transaction you want to do?
This is our first transaction.
Yeah. So you need really finance to set up really your first transaction.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. That is clear. So you're looking for some kind of a pre-finance, really.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. So now I understand your question, Francisco. Yeah. Okay. No. Yes. I don't know all the details, but we. If you're a Dutch startup company, you want to expand one of your activities abroad, and there's really proof of concept. This is really a developed product. You know, it is already there, but you really want to finance really your first, or maybe you the first one of the first transactions. We can surely look at it if we can finance that first transaction. That's our pre-financing facility. So. Yes, we can look at that. So I don't know, once again, I don't know all those details, but the basic requirements, there is a product that is developed, and it is there. There is a Dutch base. Then those are a few things that we can say, okay, that could be for us. So what I suggest you to do is you can do two few things. In my presentation, you saw a telephone number as well. So that is with our team. What the other thing you could do is there's also something that is maybe looks a bit administrative, but that is also a thing that works very quickly. There is a quick scan form really on our internet site. If you fill that in, then it will come with the team, with the MKBF team. And if you fill in the form and you answer those questions they ask, then they will get back to you within 3 days, you know, and they can give you a very quick assessment really if there are enough touching points really for us to proceed. So I would suggest you to do that, and if not, you can also email me with your but the quick scan form really asks really the right questions, and if we have them, then we can look at it, and then we can really give you a quick answer if there are enough touching points for us to proceed. Does it help you, Francisco?
Yes, of course. Thank you very much.
Okay, good.
Thank you. Mackenzie, we are very enthusiastic about the technology of Francisco, and he has a great startup based in the Netherlands. After hearing him, did your answer change or anything else you could mention?
No, it did change, because I think then the best place to sort of start is, like Mark says, is Invest International and some of the products that RVO has, because for us as traders, we are actively, again, because of the relationship we have with the Dutch government, we are actively looking to support startups that are active in the transition to clean energy, or in the transition that are supposed to sort of supporting a green economy. So I just wanted to hear whether his product or his startup is active in the green energy space or the green economy space. Then I think we would have something relevant for him. But from the answer he gave, I think it's I think it's best to start with Invest International.
Thank you, Mackenzie. I'm going to give the floor to our honorary consul in Medellin, Quincy Lissauer. But before I give him the floor, I know we still have in the room Camila Camacho of Flora Holland, David Alvarez of Heliox, and also Stephanie Chica of Royal Haskoning DHV NACO. If one of you would have a question, please indicate in the chat and I will give you the floor right away after Quincy. Quincy, you had quite some questions. I really appreciated them. Is there any remaining questions from your side?
I guess the question that I still got is from Mark, and that's in relation to what kind of returns you guys are looking at from the investments that you guys are making. Are you guys looking at 5, 10, 15, 20, 50% returns? And couple that with, how do you deal with the situation of currency exchanges? Hedging is obviously a clear challenge, particularly with a quite volatile peso, having lost about 35% of its value in the last 1.5 to 2 years, currently jumping anywhere between 3,700 and 4,100 to the US dollar. So those are my two questions, really. How do you guys deal with hedging against the peso, and what kind of expectations have you got in terms of returns on your investments?
Yeah. So the first question is about the returns on the investment loans. Like I said, it depends really what we are doing. You know, we can. I presume you're also a Dutch-based company who's looking for equity. So we work together with some equity funds, and we have also the equity funds we have with the regional development companies. So I don't know exactly which one you are, the height also of the amount, but I can get that information for you to give you some kind of indication for that. But then you have to give me a little bit more background information about that, what it is, and then I can give you some kind of an indication about the returns you need. So these equity guys can give you that question, answer that question best for you. Yeah. So I'm afraid I can't give you that exactly how much that is, but I think it is about the range where you are talking about. But to be sure, I'll ask them really what it is. But maybe you can also provide me a little bit about information about the heights of the investment, where you are going, and what kind of an investment that is. Maybe you can give me a few lines, and I can give you that. I can give you an indication what we are looking at.
Well, so on that point, really, it's more around. I mean, obviously, I'm the honorary consul of the Netherlands here in Medellin. So I deal with two fronts, right? Colombian businesses that want to invest in the Netherlands and Dutch businesses that want to invest here. Looking at the cost of capital, but then more importantly, looking at the kind of returns that Dutch companies are looking for when they do invest in Colombia. It's just more of a general idea in order to have an idea of what the expectations are. Obviously, Colombia comes with emerging market risk, and on top of that, a reputational risk that hasn't particularly been helped by the election in the last couple of weeks. So the big question then is, what kind of returns are Dutch companies looking for in order to invest in a country like this? It's more of a general question, but range is fine. It's not really specific. Oh, I've got a specific investment that I'm looking for.
No, okay, but if you give me your thing, and I can give you a general indication, really, without that specific background information, I can give you an indication about that. I can just ask them that. Yeah, and about the hedging thing, I don't believe we do that. I mean, to cover those kind of risks. No, that is not what we do. That's not a part of our business. No.
Yeah, just from experience here, it is one of the big challenges in terms of
course, I can imagine
direct investment into Colombia, right?
Yeah.
When the peso fluctuates as much as it does, unless people want to have real long-term investments in the country and are happy to be peso based, it's a big challenge.
I understand that. Yes, but we can't cover that risk. I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, that's perfectly all right. Thanks.
Okay.
Appreciate
so your first question about that's a legitimate question. I can answer that, but I just want to check that with our colleagues of equity and give you a bit of an indication of what can provide. And I think it is about in the range that you just mentioned in the beginning. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so my email address is there in the chat box. So if you or anybody else wants to email me, the address is right there. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Thank you.
Thank you, Quincy. We have two remaining questions. I'm going to give the floor to David of Heliox, but I also had one question that I got through the chat. And that's, I think, maybe a difficult question for you to answer, but we had elections in Colombia last weekend. We got a change in government, in president. It's going to start in August. What does that mean for Invest International or for Atradius? Does your risk schedule then change? How does it work? Do you look at that? Do you not look at that? Do you take it into account directly, or can you say something about that?
I think Mackenzie can better answer that question because but I can also give an answer for that. But go ahead, Mackenzie. Yeah.
Yeah, no, so indeed, like I said, one of the assessments that we do when we're doing underwriting process is also look at the reputational risk. The reputational risk is not just about it's not associated just only with the client or the debtor, so to speak, in this case in Colombia, but part of the underwriting process is also the risk associated with the politics itself. So we do have classifications, so to speak, for all the 216 or 296 countries in the world. And that the political situation in that country also counts. So, for instance, just to give an example, because of the war in Ukraine being waged by Russia, there are transactions that we had provided cover for in Russia and in Ukraine. And because of the change in the political situation and environment, we have changed our assessment of both countries, and this is done almost immediately. So by virtue of the fact that there's been an election in Colombia last week, our economists will sit down and make an assessment, which we will present to government and say, so this is what we think as professionals, and this is how we would assess this risk or the risk associated with this particular country. So a short answer to your question, Jan Willem, is the political situation does indeed significantly affect the assessment that we would provide for a particular country.
And is that assessment in any way visible, or is it just an internal assessment, or is it in some way also visible for companies looking to contact you or to finance?
No, so if as an exporter, a Dutch exporter, or as a Colombian financier or financier, you submit an application for a particular transaction to be covered, that assessment would be part of that process. So we would say, okay, this is what we think, and what you get, how it affects your transaction is that we would say it is too risky, we would provide cover, but then at a higher premium, or it is too risky, we will not provide cover. So that's how it affects your particular transaction.
Thank you, Mackenzie. We have 6 minutes left. I'm going to give the floor to David Alvarez of Heliox, one of our.
Thank you, Jan. Thank you, Jan. Hi, Mark. Hi, Mackenzie. Hi, everyone. Well, I'm David Alvarez from Heliox Energy. We are in a stage of scale up. We offer solutions for charging electric vehicles, heavy duty electric vehicles. And well, one of our main services in Europe is charging as a service. And we are willing to bring that type of service to our portfolio in LATAM.
Sorry, last one, did you say? Sorry.
We are willing to bring this type of service to LATAM. Yeah. And well, these might be projects that let's say have between 5 and 10 years, and or that's the stage of each project. And well, the question will be if it fits with your offer, both Mark or Mackenzie, and if it is, let's have a talk after this meeting, right?
Yes. So these are projects that would have a duration of about 10 years, you say?
Yeah.
And that is an investment then, what you have to make, and it is also a proven technology, or this is still in the development phase?
Sure, it's a proven technology, and well, let's say it could be between 5 and 10 years. Depends. It's to make it let's say financially a real project. So we said mainly 10 years because the product or the charger in this case can have guarantee of 10 years. Almost we can give guarantee of 15 years also, but let's say between 5 and 10 years are the most common projects for this type of service. In this case, we will put all the, let's say we will install all the charging infrastructure for the client, and we assume the CapEx needed for the project. And well, in the 10 years, it will be repaid with OpEx.
Yes, so it is a proven technology. It is a product that already exists. And so it is an existing product that is very important, and it is also, and this product has already been sold to other in other countries, so it is already there. But you need some kind of a pre-finance because the returns on this product is on a long term, like you say, 10 years. So it's a service that you provide. So why do you, so that's. And this project, the duration of this project is 10 years, but is that the duration of the contract then 10 years?
Yeah, it will be between 5 and 10 years, depending on of each client and what we could negotiate with them.
Yeah, okay. So then, okay, you get returns because of the services you provide. Okay, now I understand a little bit what you mean. So this is really a product service you provide, and you are looking for pre-finance really of these services, and you are a startup scale-up company.
Yeah, we're a scale-up.
Yes, and then you are a Dutch-based company.
Yeah, we're Dutch-based investor.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we surely can look at that. So then this is one specific client. What you were asking me. Or are there different contracts you have?
No, we want, at this moment, what we want is to see if it's possible to start offering this service as part of our portfolio. Instead of just selling chargers and software, we want to include the charging as a service.
Yes, okay. Well, maybe you can, well, I don't know, once again, all the details, very difficult for me, to really give an assessment so upfront, but we can surely look at that, David. So if you can provide me with a little bit of background information, and then we can contact you. Yeah.
Sure, Mark. Perfect. Okay. Thanks.
All right.
We have.
Sorry, Mackenzie.
Yeah, we have worked with Heliox actually. We provided cover for your transaction in Sweden and I believe Sweden and Norway. Where you supplied, I think it was a bus company there, you supplied them with 44 different charging units. So Heliox is familiar to us. And I think what you're saying now is that Heliox would, in this case, actually be the investor, where you actually invest in the capital, you do the capital investment yourself, and then you get that money over a period of time. That is definitely a transaction we can look at. I would just suggest again, David, I will look for the contact person that we have within Heliox. I don't know whether he or she is involved in this particular project, but it's something you can put in front of us for sure.
Thanks, Mackenzie.
Yes.
Great.
Thank you, David. Quincy, you had another question?
Actually, it's more a comment towards David. I'm not entirely sure what is within your company's portfolio of products and services. And I'm not sure how far you've come to explore opportunities in Medellin. We're working very closely with Martijn Groen, the first secretary at the embassy in Bogota. We are actively looking for Dutch companies that want to do more business in Medellin, particularly in the e-mobility space. So as I already said, my email address is in the chat box. If there is interest from you to do more here in Medellin, please do reach out to me. I'll bring Martijn into that conversation as well, as we continue to look to introduce more innovative technologies and products here in the Medellin region. Okay?
Great, Quincy. Yeah. Thanks for that.
Yeah, just one more addition. Sorry, Heliox is providing charging units for electric vehicles, so that is in our portfolio. That counts as green. It's a part of the green economy and the green transition. So we can actually do a lot more, take a lot more risk, and look at the transaction a bit differently. So I would encourage you to get in touch with us. Yeah.
Yeah, and from our perspective, we've got very deep connections both with EPM, the largest energy company in Colombia, the Alcaldía de Medellín, Área Metropolitana, and all the other alcaldías. So again, there's a very strong movement for Medellín to continue being the growth green city, not only of Colombia, but of Latin America. So we have the connections, and we're always open to helping Dutch companies get into those organizations and start their conversations.
Thank you, Quincy. Thank you, David. Always happy the way you promote Medellin. Great to have you here as well. Well, we have come to the end of this session. I want to thank Mark, Mackenzie, for the presentations, for answering all our questions. I think you will get quite some emails. I'm going to see if I'm going to Martijn Groen of our embassy in Bogota. One moment. Martijn, from your side, any last words, comments before we finish this session?
No, I posed one question in the chat, but that's not relevant. And for the sake of time, let's leave the closing to you. But no, thank you, Mark and Mackenzie, for this introduction. It's been a long time before Invest International was announced, and now it's operational. So we're very happy to see you here. Of course, we know some of the instruments that are part of your organization very well, such as DGGF, Dutch Good Growth Fund, and Drive. But we're happy to have now this one-stop shop where we can put a lot of questions and companies directly in touch with you. And I feel that you offer a lot of flexibility and willingness to think along with us to look at financing opportunities. And that's exactly what we need a lot of time. So thank you very much for the excellent presentations. The embassy is here, of course, to help with a lot of well, business to government contacts. We work very closely with Jan Willem and his team. Jan Willem and his team are more for business to business contacts, but our contacts are as well with the international financial institutions such as the World Bank, the European Investment Bank, etc. So if at some point there's some collaboration to be made there, we're happy to help as well. Thanks again. Really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you,
Martijn. I think these were the closing words I was looking for. So thank you very much for that. Again, thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mackenzie. We will share your presentations and details. You will probably get some emails to take a look at with your teams. Thank you again all for joining as well, for being here the whole session. I hope it has been interesting. I hope you have a nice day and see you soon again. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Stay safe.
All right, bye-bye.